What the hell is even that?
How many times have you ever questioned your own gender identity? If the answer's 0, you definitely won't be able to comprehend this woman who tries to convince us all that some people's genders actually change based on the different seasons.
Winter is coming.
As always, stick around to the end for the recap, this week's woke news, and much, much more.
Did you know, however, there is a gender identity that is linked to the season? This is called gender season. What? And this is a gender identity I've only just learnt about. It's a micro-identity. It's not an identity that I have ever heard discussed before. It's a new one for me. Gender season is an individual who explores their gender identity in relation to a season or all the seasons. So this might be somebody whose gender expression and identity is linked to one season, so for example, winter. Or this might be somebody whose gender identity and expression changes depending on the season.
Now that gives a whole new meaning to liberals blowing with the wind when it comes to picking their own gender identity. And I honestly recommend anyone who self-identifies as gender season to just go out and pick up some new hobbies. But on the topic of picking one's gender identity, just be glad you weren't forced to make that decision when you were 4 years old. See if you can sit through this next one.
Yeah, when did Hazel decide that she was no longer going to be a girl?
Hazel decided that they were non-binary when they were about 4. They had been exploring gender before that, you know, trying on different pronouns, experimenting with different names. But they picked they, them pronouns and chose the name Hazel when they were 4
Ari,
years old.
with the greatest of respect, I have a 7-year-old daughter, right? When she was 4 years old, her main decision of the day was whether to watch Peppa Pig or Frozen. She had not a clue what about gender identity or non-binary or any of this stuff. And I put it to you that this wasn't Hazel's idea, was it? This was your idea. You decided that Hazel had gender issues that she needed to address, and you persuaded your daughter that she was no longer to be a girl, didn't she?
I mean, Exactly.
Now, it's incredibly sad that Hazel will probably need a lifetime of therapy when she's older to undo all the mental garbage that's been fed to her. And anyone that thinks a 4-year-old is mature enough to decide their own gender and pronouns needs to seek help immediately. But other than bad parenting, we also have to watch out for politicians that directly put our kids in harm's way, as you'll see in our next clip.
Secretary, you're in a very unique position to impact the lives, futures, and fortunes of millions of female athletes. Would you force your daughter to undress in the bathroom with boys?
I am not going to be commenting on athletics rules that we haven't.
Okay, you can't say yes or no on that?
I'd be happy to talk about a Title IX.
If your daughter was reporting she felt uncomfortable in a boy's presence in a bathroom or locker room, would that be considered discrimination or bigotry?
As an educator for over 25 years...
You can't say yes or no to that?
I'd love to respond to your question.
So yes or no, is it considered discrimination? She did not want that to happen.
As an educator for over 25 years, we have had the responsibility...
Okay, all right, I don't have but a few minutes here. Girls have now entered into contact sports of boxing and wrestling. Would you allow your daughter to physically fight and get beat up by a boy who called himself a girl?
Once we finalize our regulations on Title IX athletics, to come back and have a conversation with you.
There's a Cherokee proverb that says, a man's highest calling is to protect women, so she is free to walk the earth unharmed. I'll say this, Mr. Secretary, before I go on to this next topic. With all due respect, I pray that our country will never, ever have the vision that your policies are now driving us toward in terms of manhood. It's a vision that teaches our boys that harming girls is no big deal. I pray that we remain a country that produces overwhelmingly mass majorities of men who feel the way I do about my girls. I will give my life in a heartbeat for my girls. There are millions of men and women across this country that do not have faith, do not have trust in you protecting our girls because of policies you can't say yes or no to.
Now, the fact that he was an educator for 25 years pretty much sums up the problem we're all facing. A simple yes or no question 25 years ago has somehow turned into the most controversial topic that no politician can answer directly. And parents and politicians aren't the only ones confusing our children. Listen to how this girl was essentially pushed into gender dysphoria by her school educators.
Hi, I'd like to start off by thanking y'all for y'all's time. My name is Emily Schmidt. I am 25. I grew up not too far from here and graduated from PNG ISD. As a child, I was groomed to be trans. My school had a huge part in this. Media similar to the book Lily and Duncan led me into having gender dysphoria at 14 years old. Soon, my whole life became surrounded by trans everything. This made me believe that my body was wrong and needed fixing with surgeries and hormones. All I ever really needed was for someone to tell me that it is okay to be a tomboy. But instead, I was walked down a path of suicidal ideations and anxiety due to media like this book that you have available to 7th graders. I am here to ask you, why do you want to teach children that their bodies are wrong? Why do you want to teach children that self-hatred is good? Why do you want to teach children that they need to chop off healthy body parts in order to find true happiness? And why did people like you tell me as a little girl that I needed to self-harm in order to be truly happy?
Now, body mutilation should be the last thing any child or teenager thinks about. And it's crazy that so many teachers actually advocate the teaching of books about transgenderism to 14-year-olds. It's no doubt one of the biggest reasons so many teenagers grow up confused or obsessed over their gender. And then you have folks out there who decide their entire personality should revolve around their gender identity. See if you can sit through this next one.
This is kind of scary because I only realized this a couple of days ago and I've only come out to a few people. I'm a guy. I use he, they pronouns and I'm gonna go by Theo. I told my mom today and I have to go home every day and be called my dead name and have she, her pronouns used every time I go home. And no one realizes how hurtful it is. It's like a slap in the face. And I dyed my hair last night so I could feel more masculine, and I was afraid I was going to get thrown out of the house. We love you, Theo. We love you.
I wish I had the last 20 seconds of my life back.
Now, it's bad enough she thinks any of this is important enough to be broadcasted to the world, but to make things worse, she has an entire group of people cheering her on as if this is some great, heroic achievement. Makes me glad I wasn't born into a liberal family. And next up is another individual whose entire personality revolves around her gender. Take a watch.
It was the worst. Since I cut my hair, people call me sir all the time.
I'm sorry that this is happening to you.
Since people call me sir so much,
Call me sir, damn it.
now it's made me uncomfortable when people call me ma'am.
It is mine.
Not because I like sir, because I hate sir, because I do not identify with he, him pronouns. I don't want to be a man, you know, whatever. It's not for me. I use she, they, like that's fine. Like I just feel like I'm like a monster.
Okay, monster man.
Like they're just so confused by me. And like, honestly, now that I'm saying it, the Leo in me kind of loves that.
There it is.
I'm like, be confused, bitch. Ew, I'm kidding. No, I'm not. That was a joke. Like, the I'm kidding was a joke, because I'm not kidding. I don't like to be noticed.
Sure.
Like, I like to be noticed because I'm a Leo, but I don't like to be, like, I don't want to create issues. I just want to glide, you know, under the radar and just be fine, and just live life and not cause any issues.
Bullshit.
Now, I'm not sure how a person can say so many words and still not make a single point. To me, this just seems like another excuse for her to take a selfie video and listen to herself talk. Although people who are this misguided need to seek therapy, not social media. But finally, we've reached our final clip of the day, which is brought to you by this woman who happily outlines the pains of being misgendered.
I don't understand what is so hard about correcting other people when they misgender others.
You just don't care.
It takes you like 2 seconds.
What a waste of time.
But you know what it takes for me to have to constantly do that?
I'm sure you're gonna tell me.
A lot of f***ing unnecessary emotional labor that I already have to take on a daily basis just to f***ing exist and be who I am. But you don't have the energy to speak up and say something on my behalf?
Oh, I don't think I have the strength.
And I just have to keep white-knuckling this?
Unfortunately, yes.
Now, it's not people's responsibility to make you feel good about yourself, so I'm not sure how you can take your frustration out on society and have a complete mental breakdown in your car. I can only imagine how exhausted the people around someone must feel when they're this fragile. Now, before we recap today's clips, let's take a closer look at the nonsensical gender season concept which we saw at the very beginning. It really turns out a lot of folks are starting to self-identify as gender season, which again means that they change their gender based on the time of the year. In the summertime they might wear shorts and feel more masculine, whereas in the wintertime they might wear more long skirts and feel more feminine. Now, if you ask me, that's literally called wearing summer and winter clothes like every other human on the planet. but many folks even created special pronouns specifically for gender season, like autumn self and summer self. I'm not even going to bother going through the whole list, but you can see it here. And perhaps the craziest part of this all is the emergence of ecosexuality, which, as some of you might be able to guess, refers to people who find nature sexually appealing or seductive. Yes, you heard that right. Take this woman who embarked on an erotic relationship with an oak tree, or this contestant on the show Naked Attraction who claimed she gets seduced by nature. Most of these people are just coming out in the last year or so, and all I can think about is how much crazier this world's become lately. Gender used to be something simple which everyone could agree on. These days, people are so starved for attention or individuality that they're willing to make up all sorts of needless genders, make gender identity their entire personality, or even go through an entire mental breakdown from being called the wrong gender. Most importantly, we should all remember that the more commonplace this nonsense gets, whether it be in our schools or in politics, it's only going to further promote more gender confusion within the next generation. As always, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode.